Africa and private conservancy owners are concerned with bullying tactics of international NGOs and some Western countries. They are accused of using money to create a wildlife crisis and divide the continent over its resources. The SADC region is arguing that the ban on trophy hunting is not justified. The African representatives have agreed that if their positions are not met, it is time for countries to review the CITES Convention goalpost, as they have negatively changed and are not respecting the autonomy of member countries. Most of the SADC member countries have tons of ivory that they are failing to dispose of because of the ban.
Well, let's get more now on COP17 that is currently underway. We are joined live from the venue by reporter Tammy Dixon. Tammy, good afternoon to you. Take it away.
Thank you very much, Alicia. Good afternoon and welcome to the CITES Convention Center here in Johannesburg, where the CITES conference is currently underway. The delegates are busy now in committees. This is now the battleground on real issues that affect this conference here. And top of those really is about the debate about whether the ban that was put in place by CITES in 1975, that has been, it's been about 26-7 years now that the ban has been in place, and now there seems to be a revolt against this by countries, especially from the SADC region, countries who are now complaining that they've got stockpiles of ivory as well as rhino horns that they don't know what to do about. And suddenly they don't want to ban those, they don't want to destroy those, but they want to be able to generate some source of income out of those. But we also have a problem of the surplus, what they call the surplus of the animals, the African elephants, and there's quite a lot of those. I mean, I was talking to the Minister of Zimbabwe yesterday, who was complaining about the surplus of these animals in Zimbabwe, and they don't know what to do about them, but suddenly they're not going to kill them, but they want to be allowed to be able to sell this because there's a market out there. There are people who are actually interested in this, but the problem are the rules of CITES. Now, I have a pleasure now of being joined here by one of the businessmen who's actually involved in this business, Wilfred Pabst, who's going to tell us more about his investment in wildlife and the challenges that he is actually facing with regards to the ban that has been put in place by CITES. Thank you very much for giving us this time to talk to you. How do you feel about this? I know that you would like to see this ban lifted so that you are able to be able to sell the stuff that you have, whether it's ivory stockpiles that you have or the animals. What do you feel about this?
Well, first of all, we don't have ivory stocks. I am a philanthropic investor in the Salve Valley Conservancy, a place called Sango. Started that in 1992. Remember, this is not my main business. You can't afford to be in conservation unless you have the money and the wherewithal to do that. It's not something where you make great amounts of money. But when it comes to Zimbabwe, for example, which is a country that I know well because that's where I am invested, the minister's absolutely right. We have excess animals, we have excess ivory, and frankly, the rest of the world should let us get on with it and do something with these assets. And I say with one proviso, provided that the money that gets generated gets plowed back into wildlife. Now, CITES is not against the general trading of animals, but certainly in some of the products thereof. I understand where they're coming from, but they need to differentiate between those countries who have no control over their animals and some of those which have. We in Southern Africa are extremely successful. South Africa, I mean, Kruger National Park has a holding capacity of 7,500 elephants. They've got 27,000. We in my Salve Valley Conservancy have got about 1,600 elephants. We should have about 700. I go to all these NGOs on this floor and say, you are banning our sustainable use thereof. Where's your solution?
But how are we going to deal with this? Because, I mean, there's opposition here. It's quite serious, actually, against the uplifting of the ban. How are you going to go past that?
Well, I think very, very clearly the local internal selling of ivory has nothing to do with CITES. CITES is an external international organization.
That motion was defeated. Namibia tried to put that argument, but it didn't work.
Well, fair enough. But, you know, who's going to tell you in South Africa what to do? I mean, anybody from overseas is going to tell you how to run your life? No. The problem is a different one. We've got these NGOs who are out there propagating that no hunting should take place, no sustainable use should take place, and all the rest of it. But they haven't given the answer how to replace the income that is generated from it for wildlife conservation. Remember that 75% of all wildlife areas in southern Africa depend to a greater or smaller degree on the income from sustainable use. Where's it? Why don't they put their money into buying our ivory, our rhino horns, and then they can do with it as they please? But then we have the money in conservation.
So unfortunately we have to leave at that because of time constraint. Well, that's just one of the people who have attended this conference here is actually invested in wildlife and really have strong views about being allowed to be able to sell the stuff that they have, whether it's animals or whether it's ivory, but they're arguing that they should be allowed to do that. So it's going to be a very long week between the delegates here, because there's going to be a lot of toing and froing about these issues. But we are here to bring you that story as it unfolds. Back to you, Alicia.
Thank you so much to Tommy Dixon. Our eyes and ears on the ground at the CITES convention, which is currently taking place in Sandton. We'll definitely have more for you throughout our bulletin.